Peace and Grand Rising. This is a sovereign living ancient Al-Moroccan Moorish American court action. I am sovereign living justice Pauline Denise Ritchie in capitis diminution nolo in red ink in proprio persona sui juris in proprio solo and in proprio heredes. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light to Jure Bay in capitis diminution nolo in proprio persona sui juris in proprio solo and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original indigenous, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves. We are the original indigenous, ancient, natural, divine. Sovereign, Moorish American, de jure, Moorish National Republic Federal Government. We are the Empire State for Morocco. We are the Moorish American Consular Court. We are the and the ancient Moorish American Consulate, Islam. We hereby exercise all of our sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. And we fully accept our sovereign ascension at this time, Islam. So there are, here just a moment. Okay, so one of the things that I want to bring forth today is that we are going to be having our 3-day full moon fast. And I believe that's the 9th, 10th, and 11th of September. Today is September the 1st. So 2022 on the Greco-Roman calendar, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, and 1443 on the ancient sun calendar. So the 9th, 10th, and 11th, we're going to be doing our 3-day fast, our national fast. And the reason we do our national fast at the full moon is to harness all of the energy and to send forth the energy into the full moon. Islam justice in the thank you for the inbox. Yes, the answer is yes. So the one thing, another thing that we want to bring forth, aside from the fast that we're going to be doing for the month of September on the 9th, 10th, and 11th. And again, those fasts, however you choose to fast is up to you. We normally do a water-only fast for the whole 3 days. But those who want to do a fast from meat or a fast from negative energy, or I heard one of our empresses say something very beautiful. She did a fast from talking, from speaking. All she wanted to do was sit in silence for 3 days and just take in the ancestral energies, which I thought was brilliant. So however you choose to fast, if you want to fast from sugar, you want to fast from meat, and just only eat things that are not meat, that's, however you choose to fast for those 3 days is up to you. Another thing that we want to bring forth, I wanted to, there's been some things put forth in the quote-unquote news regarding Jackson, Mississippi territory. So Jackson, Mississippi territory, at this time, the foreign commercial mercenaries that were previously doing business as the state of Mississippi have pulled back off of the ancient city that is Jackson, Mississippi. And in the foreign hybrid dead media, they want to make that look like it's a bad thing. They want to say that the people at Jackson, Mississippi territory are going to be suffering because that foreign hybrid dead state has pulled back and said, we're not going to give you any water. But the dead state doesn't own any water, and they know this. The thing that they're trying to do is spread some fear and some doubt in the media, because see, they're aiming all of those actions at us, at the Moors. They want to continue to occupy, and what we're saying is goodbye, you're done. The Moors, there's a Moor who is he is in the office of mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. This Moor does not, one thing I love about him is that he is being very cool when he speaks to the media. He does not let them pull him into the mess. Okay, so he's wise about that. He may or may not know who he really is, and that he has the authority to go over to, he can put on his shoes and go over to the water place and flip that switch and make it so that the water filtration system is turned back on. He may not know that he has the authority to do that, but he does. But even if he doesn't do it, the people at Jackson, Mississippi need to know, because it's, according to their numbers, is 80% Moors, sleeping Moors. Now, they called them blacks, but we rebut that. But if they say it's 80%, we believe that it's probably 99% of the sovereign heirs there at Jackson, Mississippi. We looked on the map, and Jackson, Mississippi has fresh water running all through it. They have something called the Pearl, they call it the Pearl River, but really it's not the Pearl River, it's actually ancient water. It's fresh water. And they called the reservoir, it's really an ancient lake, but they called it a reservoir, and they named it after someone that people think is a hybrid, a foreigner. But the people at Jackson, Mississippi should be rejoicing right now. And Moors, just know that this is going to happen all over our land, where that foreign, fraudulent, pretending state, because they're not even a real state, is going to be pulling back off of the resources. So let's get ourselves ready for that, and already be picking out the fresh water sources. And let's just say this, let's put this on the public record, that any of the fire hydrants at Jackson, Mississippi territory can be removed now, because there's a foreign state that has removed themselves, because that's really what's going on there. I rejoiced in my spirit when I saw that. Some might think that, oh, they're, the quote-unquote state of Mississippi is the people they need help. No, they don't need help. All they need to do is know to go down to the end of the street, remove all of those things that are previously doing business as fire hydrants, remove them. Because a fire hydrant did not even come into play until the early 1900s. But before that, those were ancient fountains of fresh water that we all used. Those are called artesian wells. So the people at Jackson, Mississippi territory, all they need to do is go and knock those fire hydrants out of the way and use and drink. And they will have water that runs continuously 24/7, 365 days a year. And that water has been running since time immemorial. We have 2 of those artesian wells here, and this is how we know that what we're saying is the truth. Here at Washington Territory, Seattle, Washington Territory, etc., we have several artesian wells that have been running since our ancestors were here on this land previously. They've not stopped running, and people go there, and I'm one. I go there and I get fresh water to drink, and I fill up all of our bottles here of water and bring it back and use it for the whole month. And it runs and it never stops. Even if it's snowing, if it's raining, no matter what's going on, that water is still running where people can go, and people line up to drink it and to use it. And every territory, everyone has that where fire hydrants, quote unquote, are concerned. Now, you know, the fire hydrants were put there as a, quote unquote, something to make it so that, oh, don't use this unless there's an emergency, a fire. Okay. Those are for use for the people at any given time. The people at Flint, Michigan needed to know that. So, Moors, we're putting it on the public record now that if any foreign hybrid state, quote unquote, pulls back and says, okay, these cities are on their own, then we clap and we say, finally, you got the memo that we told you to get off our land and stop trying to debt people, put people in debt. Because a water bill was never supposed to be a water bill. It was actually supposed to be a statement. It was supposed to be a statement that says, this is the state of the estate, and this is how much you used of the estate that is rightfully yours, Moors, brown-skinned folk. So, Moors, be prepared, because that hot mess that they're putting in the media is not really what's going on. What's really going on is what we said was going to go on. All foreign corporations and corpses get off our land. And now they're saying, okay, we can't tell Jackson, Mississippi what to do. We can't tell them what to do. Okay, Jackson, Mississippi, not state of Mississippi, Jackson. Jackson is the land named after a Moor. Mississippi is named after a group of Moors, a nation, a state of Moors. So Moors, as this thing continues to pull back and get off of our land, don't panic. That is the word for this whole millennium. Is as you see that hot mess leaving, don't panic. Don't panic. Rejoice. Because they're just doing what we told them to do. So, and then, now that we know what they're up to, that means they're getting out of here. But see, they want to cause you to panic so that you'll beg for them to stay and keep throwing you in jail and keep taking your children and keep claiming property that's not theirs. That's what they want. But we're not going to give them that. No. We have steel-toed boots for their booties. Get off the land. We good. We know where the fresh water is. We know where the food is. We can grow that as long as there is soil and as long as there's water to wet the soil, of which there is an endless amount of that. Then we'll always have food. I'm excited. Can you tell? I'm very excited about this that's happening, because they have to do what we tell them, Morse. We've been saying this all along. And that whole Jackson, Mississippi piece It's proof that they have to do it. But, you know, of course, they're going to do it the way they like to do things, which is causing a whole bunch of havoc. Well, we rebut the havoc. We rebut that. It's not real. It's not real. Mississippi. Let's just think about the amount of water that's going through Mississippi. Well, here's what we were not told, but you will know it by just looking at a map. Every territory, no matter what territory it is, has freshwater reservoirs. Every territory has that. So it doesn't even matter where you are. Texas is sitting on some of the freshest water there is. And the one thing that I've been seeing is they will, in one breath, say that there's flooding. Oh, you know, Dallas is flooding, Las Vegas is flooding, etc. Those are corporate states flooding. But even if you see the flooding going down the street, that ought to tell you there's some fresh water somewhere, because if you look at the water, it's not muddy. The water that is flowing through these places is not muddy. It's fresh water too. They're saying it's caused by torrential rains and monsoons and la 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 la, because that's their language. They want to sow fear into this sovereign nation, but we don't play that. We do not play the fear game. And in fact, they should actually be fearful of our words if that's their yeah, that if that's what they're trying to do, then we rebut that and send it right back. So Moors, be of good cheer. The things that you see on the news and all of that is just, that's them doing as we command. We've commanded them to get off this land for a while. We've been saying that for years. So, you know, of course they're going to try and sow fear into us as they leave. But we're not afraid. Let's just say that, because I could say a whole bunch. I want to talk about boots and butts and all of that, but I'm not. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to remain within my nobility and and keep it cool. But get on out of here. We good. We're not scared. Islam Empress.
So you mean to tell me that these glacier companies that sell water wasn't going up to the glaciers to get fresh water? They was just, oh my goodness, whoa.
No, they were not. No, never that. The water comes naturally. Now, listen. This is the part that didn't even make sense. We could have thought through this back then in our sleep. Why do they have fire hydrants that whenever they take the top off the fire hydrant, the water comes shooting up into the air and it's fresh? You can drink it. But they have to go up to a mountain and get fresh water because people won't have nothing to drink. That doesn't make any sense. And there are fire hydrants in the middle of nowhere. Some of the places that we've gone here in the territory just doing our research, I've gone out into the middle of the woods and the middle of the mountains and sitting right there, a fire hydrant. And I'm like, who put this here? Like, it's a mountain and there are no people here. But there's a fire hydrant. Why? Because they didn't want the water to keep shooting up through there. And moisturizing the land and crops growing, plants growing. So, even here, where there is quote unquote supposed abandoned properties and things like that, They all have electrical outlets, and they all have fire hydrants, water, running water. But they put the fire hydrant there to stop the water from coming up out of the earth. Because we put the plumbing there. We put that there millennia ago. We did that, and then they just said, okay, how do we disguise these fountains and these ancient water sources? How do we disguise them and then scare the Moors away from them? How do we do that? We put a fire hydrant on it, and then on the fire hydrant, you go read it, go look at a fire hydrant, and it will say, do not tamper with, or do not use, or do not whatever. And it's like, okay, who put this here? Whose capitalism was used? Because it's in all capital letters. Whose capitalism was used? Oh, we're the fiduciaries and they're bankrupt. If they're bankrupt, then they can't tell anybody to do whatever. So the Moors, and see, now notice, Moors, the two places that they picked to do that demonstration was 99% Moors. Flint, Michigan, 99% Moors. Jackson, Mississippi, 99% Moors. They're just trying to show the rest of the earth, are we ready to govern this vast estate? Now, I will say this, the Moorish mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, we send him our high honors because he did not let them draw him into the fight, because it ain't no fight. That foreign thing doing business as a state previously is not a state. They're not even talking to him. They're not even talking to him. They're not even talking to the people. They're talking to other corpses who were previously occupying that area on paper. So when someone that is doing business previously as a governor or a mayor or a policy enforcer gets on TV and starts talking, Moors, they're not talking to us. They're not talking to us. They're not talking to us. They're not talking to us about masks. They're not talking to us about land. They're not talking to us about anything. They're not talking to us. Just like in 1933, when they said, everybody, all citizens, turn in your gold. They were not talking to the Moors. They can't talk to us. Period. Islam, Empress. I know you want to say something. Islam.
Well, I had some notes, and it was, I just thought, I'd share.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
But I was looking at the financial part of the municipal, our municipal government.
Yes, Islam.
And so I looked up what a bond is and how does it work. And so it said, like, our treasury would create a bond, and then investors would buy the bond,
mm-hmm.
and then the treasury would pay them back with interest.
Mm-hmm.
And the bonds are they're a very safe investment for, it was a very safe investment for the Albions and foreigners to buy,
mm-hmm.
because it was coming from the government, and they the bonds would be paid back through taxes or something like that. They were going to make sure that they could pay it back, because they was like, okay, people pay their taxes, you'll get your money, you know. And And so I said, wow, no wonder they really be hollering about paying their taxes. And why? Because their money their fiat is tied to those bonds. And they're living off of those bonds. And those bonds, they have a 10-year mature, it takes, they might have to, it might get paid back within 10 years or something like that. So your fiat is tied to them bonds for 10 or 20 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, and so while things are collapsing, that's a panic for people who do that, who have their fiat tied into those bonds. And so it's like that's how they say like they'll have a proposition so and so for bonds for schools and stuff like that. And I said, okay, so that's how they're doing it. That's how they are funding things for for infrastructure, schools, or whatever. It's the bond.
Yeah.
And then the bond will come back through where when the project is going on. Then the bond will then the government will be able to pay back the bond.
Yeah.
Through
so
whatever.
The way it was supposed to work is the bond would build a school and and pave the roads and all of that, and then the people could have access to that and use those roads and not have to pay, and it would make things more convenient for the parents, for the children, and for the, for those who use the roads. That's how it was supposed to work. But once they implemented a bond, they would continue to tax every year instead of using that bond. Because, see, the bond was supposed to be a one-time payment that takes care of all the schools, okay? That was supposed to be a one-time payment where they say, okay, we're going to put a tax in. This tax is going to be available, and we're going to tax this for 2 years. And then after that 2-year period, that tax was supposed to go away. Now, that's the same thing that was supposed to be happening with the Federal Reserve. They said, okay, we're going to take all the gold from the citizens, not the Moors, but the citizens, for 2 years. And then we'll make it so that the citizens can hold gold and use lawful money. They never rescinded that. They kept saying, oh, we're still at war. We're still at war. We're still at war. We still need that. They lie a lot. They lie a lot. But that's their job. Yeah.
Probably because they're using debt bonds.
Yes.
And then the investor is using their debt notes to buy the debt bond, and then it's coming back with debt interest. It's probably just
and more debt. And then when they try to pay back the money, they're using debt to pay it back. That's a no-no. We can't, we have to stop. We had to stop the mess and the madness, because you cannot pay debt with debt. You just can't. It just doesn't make any sense. So they never paid back any of their debts, and that's why they're bankrupt now, because all the stuff that we see, the TVs and the, all of the accoutrement, the restaurants and all of that, they never paid back any of that.
Islam. Can I just read the definition of what reserve means?
Sure, Empress. Please educate us. Erudition us.
So the verb reserve means to refrain from using or disposing of something, retain for future use. And then the noun means a supply of commodity not needed for immediate use but available if required. So how does the Federal Reserve, that is not even a federal anything but a reserve nonetheless, how does that become the main source of fiat use of exchange for everybody, as a source of, exchange? How does that happen?
the Moors be sleeping and snoring and in a coma. That's the only way that will happen. That's the only way that can happen, because it doesn't make sense to anyone. The whole earth is like, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
But that's just a regular dictionary of from Microsoft Bing. That's it. It's not even the Black's Law's dictionary.
That's why. That's another, and see, I like that word, Empress. That's why we say we're at a reservation. That means this land is reserved for the Moors. And so that's why I use that term in my mailing location. Because that's what it was supposed to be in the first place. Is reserved for the heirs. The whole earth. The whole earth reserved for the heirs.
And essentially, that's why the Federal Reserve is for the Moors, because they took the gold from the corporate people and they reserved it for the Moors. That's why it's our treasury and our Federal Reserve, because it was put aside for us.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And all we had to do was wake up and say, hey, everyone, this is set aside for us. What are you doing? Okay, get off our land. And they're like, okay, well, let's make it look like,
we're leaving.
Right. And they stomping out. You know how little kids do when they leave in the room because you done told them to get out. This is an adult conversation, and they stomp out and
No.
So that's what's happening at Mississippi territory. They're like they want to make it look like when they leave it's going to be a bad thing. Listen, the people at Jackson, Mississippi, that means they are not under. Listen, they're specifically saying that the state has that the fake foreign state doesn't have any jurisdiction there. That means the people can go out and do whatever they want to do in them streets and get whatever they want to get, whatever resources they need, they can go and get them, and no one will say a word and then try and say the state of Mississippi versus, Elijah Bay or whomever.
Well, we have to stipulate it has to be within honor and true nobility that they to get the resources, because we can't have chaos and anarchy.
Oh, they will. The Moors will do it. The Moors will do it. You know what? I have learned, Empress, and remembered that I approach everything as if with the mindset. I approach everything with the mindset that the Moors will be honorable, as opposed to approaching it with the mindset, and I'm not saying you're doing this, Empress, because I know, we talk. I know that that the Moors are honorable. But I approach everything knowing that the Moors will be honorable, because I know our ancestors, and Moors that are not honorable, the ancestors just test them into honorability. Period. So I don't even think twice about dirty Moors. Don't even think twice. I don't think twice about them, because I know what our ancestors will do if our energy is not right. I'm having to check my energy every day and make sure that my energy is clean and clear with regard to all that we're doing, because we have access to so much. So I already know that somebody who's determined to be dirty, ooh, baby, I feel sorry for you. I really do, because our ancestors do not play. They don't play when it comes to honorability. They don't play. And I know that. And whenever I hear in the language of some, and I don't hear this often, but every once in a while you'll come across a Moor who's talking putting all types of energy out there, and like they are, like everybody has to come to them for whatever. All I'm thinking is, ooh, your test is on the way, buddy. And you listen, we'll be here, and we're going to check back on you in a little bit in case you need us. Because our ancestors do not play when it comes to this estate. Make no mistake about it. Sometimes people think that they're going against you or me or us as individuals. But make no mistake about it, our ancestors, they right here. They sitting here and they're cleaning the vibrations and the frequencies and the energy. The whole earth, the energy of the earth is being uplifted right now, even as we speak. The dirt is being scrubbed off of the earth. So we need not worry. We don't even have to pay attention when we hear more, one or two that still haven't learned about who's really in charge on the earth. And that charge is within them. It's within them too. And it's going to come out. And that's why they call forth their own test by what they say. If they say something, their test is going to be determined by what comes out of their mouths. I'm a living witness to that. You all know my testament where I said, ancestors, how do we get past fake courts and fake policy enforcers? They said, we're so glad you asked. and bam, straight into the fire. They didn't even wait a year. They said, oh, you 5 months old, you 4 months, 3 months old. Let's pull her over. Pull her over, y'all. Subjects, pull her over. And then they said, okay, she's 5 months, so she got enough under her belt to start doing some put her in jail. And that's what happened in 2017. But, our ancestors, they know what they're doing. And when our energy is clear, we have not a worry in the world during the testing. I didn't even worry during the testing. I was in the jail, and I'm just telling y'all, and this is in my testament, I was in the jail crying with gratitude because the ancestors gave me that test because I knew I was getting past it. I was crying, and I was just like, I'm so grateful because you're showing me how to get past the thing I feared the most, because I was very scared. I was very scared about policy enforcers and fake judges because I had faced them previously in my sleep, and there was nothing. I felt like I was at the mercy of these foreigners. And I didn't know they were foreign at the time. I thought they were Americans. And, this is in 2009 that I hired an attorney. This was back in the day before I woke up. And as I was watching them do what they did, all I was thinking was, I have absolutely no say in what's going on here. And so when I woke up, I said, you mean to tell me everything on this land belongs to us and we didn't know it? And the ancestor said, yeah. I said, well, who's been stopping us from getting to it? Fake policy enforcers and fake court. So I said, ancestors, how do we access our vast estate? They was like, clunk, here you go. This is how you do it. You're going to do it for yourself, because man knows not by being told. And we can tell other people all day long about what we're doing, but they won't know until they actually experience it and demonstrate their status and see the ancestors come and step through and just move everybody out the way for them. Because that's what the ancestors do. Those who are being tested, just know that all you got to do is out of your mouth, State who you are, and then wait. Just watch and wait. And the ancestors are going to do what they do. I mean, you know, you all know my testament where they were, it was a bunch of them standing at the door of the cell. They could not breach the cell because it was really a court. They had keys and all that, and weapons and all of that, and it was some big, gigantic ones standing there, and it was a bunch of them, and this was on several occasions. And because I was standing there speaking the word, they couldn't come in and hurt me and harm me, because they actually had come to, you know, to do some things. They couldn't do it because of the word. And listen, you may not know as much as Grand Sheik Taj knows or someone else knows. Just do what you know to do, because that's all I did. I just did what I know to do. And the ancestors said, yep, you good. Clink. And everything was good. And then they said, okay, now you see how powerful you are. Keep studying so that when the next test comes, you'll know what to do. This is a grand rising, a grand rising. This is a grand rising. Ooh. And you're chosen. I just love it. Oh, I got goosebumps thinking about it. Oh, you all are so blessed. You're so blessed. You just don't know. Ooh, I'm going to try not to cry because and some don't want to be tested, but it's through the testing that you realize who you really are. You won't know until you're tested. You won't know your strength. Just like going to the gym, you won't know until you actually feel the pain of the workout that the muscle is there, you know. So listen, we got this, Moors. We got it. There is nothing that we cannot do. Nothing that we cannot do. All we have to do is say, okay, ancestors, go ahead and test me. and they will, you know. Oof. And then just stand. Doesn't matter if you don't know the whole in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, you don't have to say all the things that we say. If you can remember it. But if you don't remember it even, they're still going to look out for you. Still, always, you know. So I'm sensing that someone wants to say something.
Islam.
Yeah. I felt that energy.
List.
Islam.
So when I was looking into that piece about the bonds and everything, and I said, okay, so that's what they're doing to, generate funds for whatever they want to do. And then I said, okay, there is a program for teachers and police that if they buy a home, you know, they're not buying a home, but this is what it says.
Mm-hmm.
If they buy a home within in a neighborhood where, you know, in an underserved neighborhood, let me put it that way, they can buy the home for $1. So that's a government program. And so then where I'm at, I'm in government housing. I'm in my government housing, and the utilities are free. Well, Yes, utilities are free. You just have to pay for, your internet or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay, so the government payment structure must be different, because when it comes to them, they're not paying what we pay, or what the custodians pay. So so I was looking into that, and I was like, okay, so so being structured as a mortgage government is important to do, because it's a different type of the way we requesters they were even not even paying $1 for a house. They're not even paying for, because they're government. They were considered government. And so those are the kind of things I just wanted to share today.
Well, those that were put in government housing was the government, really.
Yeah.
Think about that, Morris. Everybody that was put in government housing was actually the real government. And the same thing transfers to a 10,000 square foot domicile. You're still the government. It still applies. We just have to make the transfer.
Yeah.
Know how to do that.
Yeah, because I'm saying, okay, so they obviously have some kind of contract with the utilities, but they're contracting as the government. So yep. I was like, okay, so that's what sounds like we need to do. We need to contract as the government, not as our natural person, but we should be government when we
when
we get our services.
See what they did, and our Prophet Noble Jure Ali said that we should all be living in the same place, like living together in the same neighborhood and all of that. Well, that whole place should be on the record as government housing. Now, granted, the government housing is going to be 10,000 square foot homes and whatever else we choose. You can have 500 acres, and that be government housing.
That's right.
It actually should be that way, and here's the thing. I've been seeing on YouTube these people who go into these quote-unquote abandoned mansions, and in the abandoned mansions that are quote-unquote dilapidated, supposedly, the lights are still on, the water is still on, everything is still, the utilities are still working. And this is in gigantic buildings that they were using as hospitals and things like that, when really we Moors used to live together in those places. Okay? Because our children, our heirs went to school together and they learned together. And places like Capitol building. Think about the Capitol that is the building at your territory. Those were our domiciles. Those were our domiciles. And that was government housing. And no matter who's there or who's not there, if you go into any of those buildings and flick the light switch, the lights are going to come on. So we needed to look at that process and then say, okay, how do we transfer this process? Now this is the thing we also need to be thinking about, Moors. Most of us are in housing that is substandard to our nobility. In fact, I don't know any Moors that live in the 10,000 square foot domicile, myself included. I don't live in a 10,000 square foot domicile. So then we may need to think too about, okay, government housing has already been proclaimed as government housing. It's not going to change. That's why when you go into those places and you flick the light switch, the lights are going to come on. So we need to be thinking, okay, maybe let's think about, we can make that happen for where we are, but then we need to be still looking at, okay, now let's move to those places, because those places are quote unquote abandoned. And you can go on YouTube and look and see that the 10,000, any home that's 10,000 square foot and above, most of them are abandoned at this point. Just know that. Because the people that were occupying them they knew that we were coming. So now we have to properly proclaim how to do that. In Empress Chatali, you're showing and building in that area where we will know, okay, we need to address this, we need to address this, we need to address this. And then we can properly be in a 10,000 square foot domicile that's always been there. It's been there. They've been there. They just need us to go and put our touch on it. You know, affirmation of that is the fact that those previously doing business as Europe and Europeans are really complaining because their utility bills are going through the roof. If you go out on YouTube, you will see that a lot of them that have little shops and things like that, where the utility bill for that little shop to be open per month was generally something like, let's say 400 Federal Reserve notes. Now they're starting to get bills that are 5,000, 4,000, 1,200 utility bills. Why? Because that's not a government entity. That's our sea salt is a government sponsored. It is government sponsored commerce. Our housing, this domicile right here is government housing, period. It's government housing. And that's why, and I'll just say this, that's why the foreigners, the court jester comes in and he keeps putting things in the chat about a tax. That there's a tax that's showing that's due in October. All he's doing is trying to say that's government housing. It's not supposed to be taxed. So you need to do something about that before October. That's all they're doing. We know that. Islam.
Well, I looked up the word utility. It's a noun. The state of being useful, profitable, or beneficial. And that's the noun. And then the adjective, useful, especially through being able to perform several functions. So that's the adjective. But for the noun's point of view, this is the state of being useful. So how is there a utility bill? How is that useful? The utility bill.
Right. That means that it's in the wrong state.
Exactly.
Listen, the dictionary is using those words specifically for a reason. I remember the days when my mother and father would get a statement instead of a utility bill because they had basic public service. They did not pay for that. That was trash service. It was light bill and water bill. And if you ascribe to public service, then you didn't pay, you just got a statement of how much you used. Now, where the commerce came in is if you moved into a domicile that was 7,000 square feet and had a big pool in the backyard, then you getting a water bill. That was where the water bill started coming in. But even for us in these small domiciles, we agreed because they sent, I remember it coming. I remember when my mother got something saying, if you pay $5 a month, we will give you enhanced services. I remember it like it was yesterday. My mother got something in the mail when we were on, when we were in Alabama territory. And they said, if we're asking everyone to pay, I think it was either $2 a month or $5 a month. So that trash service, I think it was related to trash service, that they would pick it up more often.
Oh.
Because they used to pick it up like twice a week, once or twice a week. They would come by and pick the trash up. But then they said, okay, we want to start picking up trash more often. So we're asking everybody to pay either $2 or $5 a month. And if you agree to pay $2 or $5 a month, we'll come by your place and pick up trash more often. Well, after a while, it became, because so many consented to that, then they started just sending everybody in one whole neighborhood a bill for $2 or $5 and saying this neighborhood has agreed in the majority to this bill. So we're going to do the whole neighborhood.
To keep up with the high.
Yes. And this is the crazy part about all of that, because see, we should have seen this coming. And then after a while, after a few years of them doing that, they started cutting back, saying, you know, we're going to charge you more, but we're going to cut back on the number of days we come. And now most garbage they only pick it up once a week, whereas they was picking it up every day before and charging more to do that. So, you know, I remember it like it was yesterday when my parents, when they assented to that, and they never, and actually my mother didn't even respond to it. She didn't even respond to it, now that I think about it, because she was too busy working, trying to feed 9 mouths, her and my dad. So they didn't even respond to it. They just, and they waited and waited and waited until they said it was mandatory. And when they said, and my parents were not going to pay until it was mandatory. And then when it was mandatory, you know, then they said, okay, they said they're not, and this is what they said. They said, we're not going to pick your trash up at all. Because the whole, you know, but they couldn't do that. All my parents had to do was challenge that. But again, they were busy working jobs and trying to feed the family, and they didn't even respond to that. And then after they didn't pick up the trash for 2 or 3 weeks, my parents were like, okay, I guess we better pay this little $2 or $3, $5 or whatever. And by then they was $15 behind, you know. And so no one said a word. And more, this is key for what we're doing, because sometimes people will say, y'all don't need to do all that paperwork. All we have to do is stay. No, we have to respond. And it's not even a response, it is a command. We're commanding that, no, that's not how it goes. This is how it goes. You don't get to charge fiat. you're going to charge gold and silver, and then we're going to pay it with the gold and silver we have.
Islam.
Islam, Empress.
So upon further research on this word bill, right, bill is also used as to define a bill is proposed legislation under consideration by legislature. A bill does not become law until it is passed by the legislature as well, in most cases provided by the executive. So they was low-key telling us that these are utility bills. And see, remember what utility is defined by as a noun, the state of being useful, profitable, or beneficial. So they was telling us the only way you could be profitable and useful and or beneficial is to take this state of being and write the legislation, be the Congress, and write the laws so you don't have to pay and be the true government.
Yes. You know, Empress, bill, there was never even supposed to be a bill if we didn't vote for the bill.
That's why it's also known as a legislation act, bill.
And so they said, okay, this is what the foreigners said. They said, okay, they won't even govern. They're sitting up and don't even want to send a document. So we're going to act it out, and then we're going to impose it on them. Impose, the root word being position. We're going to impose this on them.
Yes, a true bill in commerce, a utility bill.
Yep.
There's a lien. They're liening us for free service.
For services that our credit has already prepaid for.
Public service.
But we decided that we were going to go to the club instead of governing. We decided we was going to go on, and and watch their TV instead of governing.
And when they say a bill is a lien, they would say, okay, you're not paying, we're going to lien your property.
Yes.
So
yes.
You got a teeny tiny old bill that's unpaid, and then they put a lien on your property for that teeny tiny bill. And so that the law started, the way they were using the law started to get convoluted, where people were saying, I don't want to have a lien on my property for a garbage bill. If it's that serious, just pay the thing. And then they saying, okay, well, we have to charge you more because of the cost of living, something happened, blah, 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 for the cost, So, and then they're justifying to make it seem like, this is all part of, us doing business. And you just think, okay, I don't want my house to be lean, and, this is to help keep the business going. So and even to this day, they still try to say that this is the reason why they are charging what they're charging, because of the cost of living or something like that. So we have to show that that's a lot.
Well, we first need to know who in the hell is talking, who's speaking, who is this? Who is this? Who's saying that they have the authority to lien our domiciles? Who is that? What do they look like? And we know we don't go by skin color, but what do they look like? Who is this? Where do they come from?
Yeah, because at that time, you're saying this is public utility, so that's government utility. So we just thinking that's government. We ain't thinking that it's actually foreigners that's doing this to us, So now everything is kind of coming into fruition where we're rightly dividing, like, what's going on here, and it's them charging us and billing us and liening us. And
well, and who are they really charging and billing and liening? Some stuff they created.
Yeah.
That's not even us.
That's true, too. That's true,
like,
too.
Okay, who is that person? Because my person is right here on this paper. Who is that on that paper, and who created that mess? My person is sitting right here on this paper because that's where I put her. So who is that person that's saying, who is that debtor? Who is the debtor? Who is that? Because that's not me. I didn't write that. And our state did not, and our Congress didn't approve it. So who is that?
My person is solvent.
My person is wealthy, extremely wealthy. My person doesn't have a single debt anywhere, and my person is protected. Why? Because I protected her. The all caps is the person that we're talking about, and that's separate from us. That's not us. That's actually, our person is a minor that can't speak for themselves. Islam, Empress.
No, this is Izine.
Oh, Islam, nobility.
Yeah, Islam. You know, well, going back to those utility bills.
Yes.
As far back as I can remember, there has never been a lien on anyone's dwelling for transmitting utilities, water, the electricity, because those particular services will just cut you off. And they know that basically the families need it. So they just charge they do a surcharge. And then when you go in to present those notes, then they'll just switch the switch and you got it again, like in service. So no, they have never liened those transmitting utilities.
I have known them to lien a domicile if the people moved out and there was like a $1,200 bill. I know for from personal experience that there were people who were renting a place and they left the water running when they left because they got booted out. So they got mad and left the water running, and it turned out to be like a $1,200 water bill. And the water company was saying, well, we don't know who's who, so we're going to have to lien. We're going to have to place a lien on this domicile in case whoever it is that owns it comes back and tries to sell it. You know?
Yes, yes. In that case, you're right.
You know?
But if you're right, once they vacate the premises, it's a done deal for the tenants who were there. But in that particular case, as you're saying, you are correct. But no, they don't lien transmitting utilities because people have little children and they need to feed, they need heat, they need AC. Well, they know you eventually you're going to show up to reinstate those services.
That they're benevolent. You're assuming that they're benevolent. In some cases, they're not benevolent. In some cases, they do put people out, and for example, homeowners association, quote unquote.
Yes, they will act on it. That's true. That is a contract, and they will put you out of the association. Yeah, well, they'll lien your condo.
Yes.
They'll lien the condo or lien the dwelling. Yes. Because the pertinent structures is what you're agreeing to. And that sets in motion a contract. So they proceed against whatever equity you have. And that's in the condo or the single-family dwelling, or it could be a fourplex or whatever that association consists of. So that is true.
Okay, and they don't do that with the Moors. Because
no, I agree.
Look at that paperwork, and they stop all the madness because they ain't even supposed to be here. I'm just saying.
That's true.
They're not even supposed to be on the land. Because then you lien their domicile, and this is why our liens are so important. You lien everything in the hood that they're claiming, homeowners association, all of that. You lien every property there because they're sitting on your land, and most of the time they have built the neighborhood, quote unquote, on top of a pyramid. It's going up and it's on a pyramid, and they trying to act like they own something, and it's like, okay, no, you don't own this. We do, and you're in debt. So me being the fiduciary, we're going to say, stop sending that stuff you're sending. Just stop sending it. We're not even going to throw you out. Just stop sending it. Stop sending the paperwork. Stop acting like you have some authority. And we won't throw you out. You know, because we, you know, for us, we're not manhandling people. We don't have to manhandle people. We don't have to, you know, we don't have to be mean, and we don't have to go to war and all of that. We don't do that. We just say, we know who we are and we know who you are, so you can stop acting.
Islam. Back in 1975, one of the Abians that I knew, he was walking through this, I would say, upscale neighborhood, and I guess he had frequently visited the area several times, and he noted that no one was living in this nice home. So what he did was took it upon himself. He went around to the rear. He told me about this afterwards. He told me. So as he went around to the rear, he got into the premises and had a nice swimming pool, and he just took the attitude that it was his home. Actually, it was a foreclosed property, and he started mowing the lawn. I went by there one day. He had the lawn manicured. I went to the rear of the house. He had the swimming pool drained and putting in fresh water. And I said, wait a minute. I know you don't have any money. He started laughing. But he had taken over and started living there as if it was his home. So the word got out among the ones that knew him. Next thing you know, we were all going by there every day, sitting up, laughing and talking. Some of his friends moved in the upstairs. Each one picked out their own bedroom, that type of thing. and so everything was going fine. And then they decided to step it up by taking action, saying, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't each and every one of us get a car? So I wasn't there that day. I was going by there every day. We'll sit and talk. And when I got there late, all of them had gone to the dealership and gotten a car. Each one got their own car. So I arrived late. I said, what's going on here? And then 2 days later, they all left the city. I don't know if they left the cars or they drove out of the city, but they left the city. So the policy enforcers were after all of them because of the cars, not because of the dwelling.
Yeah.
Something they didn't touch base on the automobiles, but the dwelling was fine. But eventually, since they eventually caught up with him, and I think they came back and changed the locks on the doors. The so-called bank changed the locks, and
listen,
they shut down the house.
That he got away with it for that long is because he was one of them.
Probably so.
That's the only reason he got away with it, is because they knew that the Moors had not spoken on the public record.
I know I didn't sign anything. So they were doing fine for a minute. Yeah.
That's not even today. If he tried that, he would be in jail within 24 hours.
That's true.
He would. Today, can't do that today.
That's true.
For today. And then the reason that they got in trouble with the conveyances is because of the whole right to travel issue. The right to travel is a universally protected. See, whoever it is that controls the right to travel is the Lord of the earth, of the whole earth. Whoever it is, and let me just make sure that we can hear this and put this on the public record, because it's important to hear. There's a little bit of noise coming from somewhere. Okay. Listen, Morris. Whoever it is, and this is why the right to travel is so important. And this is another reason also why most Moors who have gotten put in jail got pulled over first. That's how they get you. It's pulling Moors over. Even if you're not doing anything wrong, you weren't doing anything wrong. Because whoever it is that controls the right to travel controls everything else. The commerce, food and everything comes by way of the right to travel. I know people they may not realize that right now, but whoever it is that controls the portals of entry and exit in and out of the state, whoever controls that controls the whole earth. And at this point, we control the right to travel. We control the portals. Why? Because we put those individuals that were previously doing business as the state patrol, state police, etc., we put them in their proper place. They're debted. They're debtors. They're bankrupt debtors. And we're not talking about faces of people. We're talking about offices. So we're not mad at people. We're not mad at the office either. We just needed to clean the office out. So whoever it is that controls the movement of people, and this is another reason too, Moors, why that whole quote-unquote COVID thing stopped the travel. They had to stop the travel. The travel had to be stopped because we control the portals. And that's why you saw boats lining up at the ports and all of that. That was a clue and a hint to the whole earth that the travel ways have changed, that the authority of the travel ways has changed. That's going to also determine what comes in and out. Okay, so now natural foods can come into the land, onto the land. Why? Because the Moors, and this is the whole deal, this is the matter. The Moors stated on the public record, and we keep speaking on the public record, that we are the heirs to all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. And no one can rebut that. That's the real issue, is every time we speak, nobody stands up and says, oh, that's not true. They're not the heirs to all land, all natural resources. No one says that because they can't. And then the Moors, you all have the audacity to put the constitutions on the public record. Well, when we do that, that's governing the commerce that comes and goes. And no one can rebut it. We've not had one single rebuttal to the constitutions and the money and the fiduciary money and the delarium. We've not had a single rebuttal that was worth anything. No one ever said the law says you can't do this, this, and this. No one said that. I gave fiduciary money. I delivered fiduciary money that I printed on this printer. I delivered it to the former custodians previously in the office of the bank. And it's been 2 weeks now. And they couldn't say or do anything but take it into the inventory and put it on the books. But the books that they put it on is in the back. It's not on the front end. It's not on the citizen end. It's on the back end. They couldn't say or do anything. They had to take it.
Islam,
Empress.
yes. Islam Empress. Okay, so I have two things around the same subject. So, I've been working with my company, Wells Fargo, regarding my conveyance. And I know it's already mine. Ancestors already showed it's mine. But they sent a check to my sovereign mailbox. And I'm choosing not to cash the check because it's in all caps letters. And I'm still like, I'm not sure, But it wasn't for much. It was for 8184. And they were saying that it's due to an overcharge of interest or something like that due to COVID.
Okay.
And stuff like that. And so, and I see it as them affirming that they owe me money, of course, because I should have never been paying anything in the first place. Mm-hmm. But, the second part I was thinking about, which I'm glad we did the fiduciary letters, because now that I did a fiduciary letter that I sent to them, to those doing business at Wells Fargo, the former custodians. And so I was like studying the check and everything, and I know we've done our own treasury checks, but I was like, why can't we just issue checks from these banks? Because we can get the perforated paper, they have that, and we can. I was looking up the magnetic ink. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people have done the study on the numbers. I still have to study the numbers. Yeah. But I was like,
so Empress, I would like for you to scan the check in front and back and send me a copy of it so we can see what it looks like.
Okay, I will. I'm gonna
email
paper because I didn't. Because the other thing I've been observing as I've been on this journey too is that these folks, like we've been saying, are not in these buildings. They've been out what is called outsourcing to other countries, but also now, as I have felt in my spirit, it's just these random people and sometimes bots.
Yes.
Bots that are in their homes that probably, just got a set of perforated paper because I've been going back and forth with those from my company T-Mobile as well, and I've been studying the paperwork they gave me, and almost every single paperwork has looked different, and I'm like, these are different people sending this, and so I was like,
because they don't really have, we're the head, okay, and we need to continue to put forth that we're the head, we're your head. Because at this point, they're feeling like they don't have a head. They don't have, leadership.
Yes.
And we're their leader.
Yeah.
That I knew when I went in and did the Wells Fargo demonstration that I did. I don't even bank with them. And I did a demonstration there, and I knew from the very beginning that, they're making things up as they go.
Yeah, they're not there. And, even as I was looking for signatures and stuff, and I was just looking at them, and I'm like, just these feelings were coming to me like some of these people are just created, like fiction, like we can do so much with technology and say this is this person. Even with my domicile, I looked up the person that was supposed to be doing attorney, and something told me like they like can make up a website real quick, make up a LinkedIn page. A lot of them don't even really exist, Don't.
None of them do. Let me just put that out there on the public record. They don't exist. They don't exist.
Yeah. So I'll send you the check to Fiduciary Bay or the government.
But you can send it to the government at gmail.com. Okay. And the government has an E on the end. It's THEGOVERNMENT.
Okay, sounds Okay, sounds good. It'll be coming from rosalindspirituousbay.gov@gmail.com.
Okay.
All right, yeah, so with that I yield because I'm like, we just, we were always the presidents and the chief executive, but now that we have these fiduciary letters, why not write these checks, like make these checks. So
Yeah. Listen, who's going to say no?
right,
Some bankrupt foreigners?
right.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate that, Empress, because that will show us how to create the checks that we create.
Yes, that's true.
Listen, Moors, we are sitting in front of open heavens. I had some things that I wanted to show you and say to you this week, but my computer got pretty much fried, and it was my own doing. I spilled a cup of liquid onto the computer, and it got fried. But it was time for it to go anyway. So let me say this about what we're doing, because I wanted to point this out to you. Let's see. And because when it comes to the fiduciary letters, when it comes to those, let me show you why we're not getting any pushback on them. And I'll show you that as soon as this computer does what it's supposed to do, because it's moving really slow. And that's okay. It can move slow if it wants to move slow.
Islam.
Islam, Empress.
I was kind of thinking towards the same thing with the fiduciary letters where we give them the resignation. We're saying that they're going to be liquidated. And then I said, okay, because I'm giving the mayor of Oakland a fiduciary letter. And so.
You giving yourself a fiduciary letter?
No, the custodian.
Okay. Islam.
And so I'm saying, okay, so they do bonds and stuff like that, and they have their treasury, and so what if I do a bond, but it's like it needs to be a credit bond. It shouldn't be a debt bond. It should be credit. So I'm still trying to figure it out, but I'm thinking because the bond is like some kind of check, or like Rose was saying, we could write that, and then that would be a way to get the fiduciary money or credit into the system on the municipal level. If they have their treasury, and it gets sent to the bank. I don't know, but yeah, I'm kind of thinking along the same lines.
Well, as you're thinking about this demonstration, Empress, make sure, and this is just a suggestion because we can't tell sovereigns what to do, but make sure that you know that they're not any type of authority.
Yeah.
That we're doing these exercises so that we know how to govern our vast estate. This has nothing to do with them. It really doesn't. So we think our way through the process, and we address everything, yes, but knowing that there are Moors on the other end, on the receiving end. Okay, not foreigners. Okay. Let me share the screen with you for just a moment, because with regard to the fiduciary letters, I want to show you where this is where they recognize, this is why and where they recognize fiduciary letters. Okay, this is why they have not said anything about fiduciary letters or made any type of there's been no rebuttal to the fiduciary letters. On the screen, just one moment. Just one moment. Just one moment. Okay, so with regard to the fiduciary letters, in the book of Esther, in the Biblios Heliotheque, now remember more, the Biblios Heliotheque, or the Helios Biblios, which is what some Moors call it, which means holy book. It is a legal code book that that guides us to our greatness, our godness. So we shouldn't be mad at the Biblios Heliotheque. But we look at it and we say, okay, what is it really saying? Well, Esther, the book of Esther, the 8th chapter and the 8th verse says what we're doing with the fiduciary letters. So the story goes that Esther and her people, who were actually Moors, in the book they call them Jews, but that's not really, that's a hypothecation. They were Moors, and they were the chosen, and they knew that. And so their lives were being threatened. Okay, there was someone threatening to decapitate all of them. He was going to use a document to decapitate them. And Esther said, okay, no, we're not going to let that happen. So she went to her consort, who was the quote unquote king. Now, Moors know this. We birth the kings. We birth the kings. There are no kings that did not come from our wombs. Anybody claiming to be a king better had come through our womb, or else they're a fraud. Okay? And so what we did was we birthed the kings, and then we said, okay, kings, go ahead, go throughout the earth and take control, take dominion. And they did. Our sons did that. And so we said, okay, we're going to, we're going to step back a little bit and let the sons rule, because they need to know how to rule the earth. And so that's the story of Esther, where Esther, her consort was a king, but the king had one of his boys on the side, Haman, and one of his boys was thinking, okay, she has complete control over my boy here, so I'm going to make sure she get out the way. Because that's really what happened. He was trying to get rid of all the females in his boy's life who would stop the party. And so Haman said, I'm going to send out a decree. I'm going to talk to my boy and have him send out a decree that says all these people are decapitated. All these Jews, we're going to kill them. Decapitate. Decapitation is capitalizing everybody and enslaving them, and then making it so that they can't do commerce. That's what decapitation or capitalism is all about for them. Not for us, for them. And so he had his boys send out a decree that said all these Jews are going to be killed. Well, Esther was a Jew. And when we say Jew, we spell it J-U-H. And so she said, okay, I got to do something about this. So she said, I'm going to go to him. I'm going to go to my consort, the king, quote unquote, and I'm going to plead for the life of my people. And she did that, knowing that if she went into the king and he did not raise the scepter to her, that she could be beheaded, that he could have her killed for coming in without his permission. But she was so beautiful. She looked like y'all, the brown skin and just shiny and all of that. But I digress. And so when she went in, he said, what do you want? I'll give you up to half the kingdom. Now that's where that whole 50%, the woman gets 50% at the divorce. That's where that came from. The king said, no matter what it is that you want, I'll give you half of everything. And that's where they got that from. So anyway, she said, okay, your boy Hammond is trying to have all of us killed. And you've already sent out the decree. And we know that anything that's sent out with the king's stamp and seal on it, with the stamp and the seal of the king, cannot be revoked. The king can't even revoke his own word that has gone out with stamp and seal. And she said, okay, you need to do something about this. So he said, okay, I'll do something about it. He said, this is what I will do. Esther, I want you, and this is all the Moors. Write what you want the decree to say. And then you put my stamp and my seal on it. And whatever it says, everybody has to do it. So that's what we're doing. Verse 8 says, you yourselves, this is what the king said to Esther, you yourselves write a decree concerning you and your people. Write a decree. Do a protected person's document. Write it as you please in the king's name and seal it with the king's signet ring. For whatever is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's signet ring, no one can revoke. And that's what she did. She wrote a letter. She wrote resignation letters. She had people resign. She said, okay, Supreme Court, you're going to affirm this $100 million judgment against Federal Way, City of Federal Way Corporation, in the favor of. We're going to do whatever we need to do. And that's what she did. And then she put that stamp and seal on there. Well, that's what we're doing. And that's why we're not getting any pushback, because they know the book. They know the book. And we know the book too. And that's why, that's another reason why the money, the fiduciary money, no pushback. They know the book just like we do now. No one's pushing back on fiduciary money. No one. And I've demonstrated with it. And no one's pushing back. Islam nobility.
Talking about fiduciary money. I try scanning the fiat over here, but because it's plastic, it's not coming out on the print.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we go? How could I go? How could I go around that?
Keep thinking about it, nobility, about how you can go around that. I could tell you how to go around it, because that's not even the only money that they use over there.
Yeah, they use the euros, but the euros.
Yeah, and euros are not plastic.
Okay, so then change that into euros. So it's done deal.
Yeah.
Definitely got, because I was trying to do it today, send you some, but unfortunately, I went into that system, but now that door has just been exploded now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and even with the euros piece, because I have Zimbabwe Reserve, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. I have some Zims. We could do the same thing with those, and I could go to Zimbabwe and use them, and no one could push back on that. So with you and the euros, they need you to do that demonstration because they're done, and they know they are. Have you heard the news coming out of the quote-unquote European Union?
Not yet, no.
Oh, wow. They're done. They're finished, and they know they are.
Islam.
The news coming out of there is nothing good for them. And they're actually saying, hey, everyone, the news is horrible for us, so you guys are going to have to fend for yourself. And they're doing all they can to put edicts and quote-unquote decrees out there, but they're not valid, and they know they're not. So they're saying, and that's another reason why that whole Ukraine thing is not sitting well with them, because they have no assistance. They're going to have to go right on back to their creator for any help, and the euro is not helping them. The quote-unquote United States dollar, that the fiat Federal Reserve debt notes is really what they've been sending. That's not helping them either. That's not helping the people, and they know it.
Okay. Next Friday, I will go and get myself some euros, and I will proceed.
Yeah.
And hopefully Sunday we can do a demonstration with everybody where I burn it and do everything as well. So
Islam.
Tomorrow I'll get the euros.
Yeah.
And hopefully Sunday we can do a live demonstration while you're on the chat.
Islam. I'm just amazed that they have plastic money, quote unquote fiat, or plastic fiat.
Well,
I'm just amazed at that.
I think they must have known what was coming, so they're trying to find a way to slow us down, but that ain't gonna happen.
Well, they're basically just telling everybody that it's fake. And people don't even know where that stuff is being produced at. That's the issue. Who's producing the plastic money, quote unquote money? Who's producing that? Nobody knows where that's coming from. It's coming from debtors. We know where it's coming from. It's coming from debtors. It's coming from debtors. And all they're saying is that, hey, this is plastic. Plastic is fake.
Absolutely.
They're printing out a little bit in Utah.
Isn't that crazy, Empress, that they're doing that? We know that it's coming from someplace over here. We know that.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to put that on the public record, but we know that because the only way it can be created is to come from here.
Yeah.
Whether it's coming from the fakes or because see, as we continue to print what we're printing, it's going to come from here. Except fortunately we have the UK Moors and the Trinidad Moors and the Jamaica Moors already on board with the money, so it's going to have to come from them. To me, that's just crazy. That's crazy that the fake stuff is coming from here. That they don't even. But see, the printing presses have been repossessed. So not even the one that was previously doing business as Jerome Powell, they're not even printing anything. All the printing has stopped, except for what we're doing. And the reason that it stopped is because you can't have two heads. According to Unum Sanctum, there's only one head. That's us. And because they knew we were going to start printing, they knew they had to stop. Now, some may say that that's a coincidence, but you can call that whatever you want to call it. But the ancestors gave us the information to start printing, and that's what we're doing. And it's timely. The timing is perfect. And they knew before we recognized, they knew, and they started pulling back all of that, fiat. And I can't even say that we knew before they did. All we had to do was put it on the public record. And we did that in 2018, and they start pulling all of that stuff back.
Even prior before, even 2018, there's been so much cuts in the UK, but we couldn't figure out why there's so much cuts, but now we know why.
Yeah, they knew.
Islam, may I get him to speak louder?
Can you hear me any better?
Yeah, we can hear you, Noble Consul.
Okay, so Noble that said you wanted to speak a bit louder.
Yeah. So, Justice Consul, you're so cool that when you speak in a very cool, low voice, and sometimes we can't. We want you to speak a little louder.
Okay, I will do my best to do that.
Look, he's still talking cool.
That's too cool.
Oh, so you heard that one? It's cool.
Yeah, he heard that. Justice Consul, boy, look, no one could upset him and get him all out of his person. No one could do that. He's so cool that
I have trained myself to keep my energy in an equilibrium way and not have anything upset me at all.
Wow, we all need to do that.
I've been practicing that for some while right now. And what I normally do, if there's somebody want to upset me, I just kind of turn it away and go about my business. Walk it out. Because I know by giving the energy, I know exactly what's taking place. So I'm not giving that energy. I'll just walk away. You deal with it.
We're learning to be like that. We're learning to be like that because our energy is so important.
Yeah, because like Noble Juali said, peace be upon him, that was about to say here, once you study yourself, you know about these energies.
Woo,
and
yes.
I'm seeing the energy all around from different people, and I say, okay, they haven't studied themselves, so they don't know what's about to happen. So I know what's about to happen, so I'm just stepping away.
Mm-hmm.
What I do, I just keep quiet and just let them talk.
We're all working on that. All of us, we're working on that because we will pop off sometimes, and we're learning
because so much of our people are still asleep. Even trying to tell them something. The old program is like they can't see past that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just leave it alone, and it's for them to find out. Know yourself, man, know thyself.
Yeah.
That is my answer to them.
Yeah.
Islam.
So, after Esther wrote the decree, she wrote it herself, and then he gave her free reign, and she just did whatever she did. Then Esther, the 9th chapter, verse 1, It says, now in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day. And this 13th day, the reason this day is so important and that number 13 is so important is for this very reason. It says, the time came for the king's command and his decree to be executed. On the day that the enemies of the Jews had hoped to overpower them, the opposite occurred, in that the Jews themselves overpowered those who hated them. The Jews gathered together in their cities throughout all the provinces of King Ahasuerus to lay hands on those who sought their harm, and no one could withstand them, because fear of them fell upon the people. And then they start talking about government and governing and what they did. So what we're doing right now, this is where we are, Morris, just so that you're aware of the update on where we are as a nation, is right now we're writing the decrees and stamping them and putting them out on the public record.
Islam.
Yeah,
I just want to affirm about the word decrees. I don't have a definition, but just based on what I've learned, part of my journey, I had, was studying with a group of people that gave me a book, and it was full of decrees. And I ended up, after a while, because what they were what I was being learned and what the ancestors were teaching through them was more science, but I had to, after doing research on their base and, I figured out like they're part of these societies that I didn't even know. But, because I studied them and I was like, it was like they had some old, the fraudulent government stuff, but they had these books of decrees which were really powerful. And the decrees would be over the borders of the United States, and stuff like that. And, it would be, there was their own consort of guides, like Lady Victory, stuff like that, and stuff like that. I learned a lot from them. And
clearly they were hybrids.
Yes.
And let me just say this, Empress. They needed your energy into what they're doing, because they can't do it by themselves. They always have to have at least one more participating in what they're doing in order for them to keep it going.
Empress, let me tell you, the stuff I found out on them and that the ancestors got me, like the ancestors actually, when I went into the whole thing, it was like the Orishas told me to. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. They showed me, you're going to go learn from this lady, right? And then, so I learned from her, and I really needed the information, because it taught me a lot. That's helping me on my journey now, as we're demonstrating and stuff like that. But there was a point where they flashed a vision in front of me and said, you need to stop now. Like they'll tell you when to stop. And it was really hard. And, at first I didn't listen, and they showed me how they were using my energy, and other energies of other Moorish women that were asleep. And I was asleep to being a Moor too at that time. They literally sent the dreams. They sent me the dreams. I don't know what kind of agreements they had on our heads with other people. It was just, it's one day I'll have to tell you all about it and how I got away from the whole thing. And, even recently, like with the termination of corporate contracts and stuff like that, but you just don't know. But you know what, sometimes our ancestors will send us on mission, and I had to go on that mission. That was part of my mission, because they were teaching certain sciences for us to, love and light, and teaching us these sciences. But they were also at the other back end, the ancestors showed me, we're trying to do their own magic to block the higher energies from coming in, because they knew they couldn't.
They had to pull they get their sandwiches from us. So they pull their little energy, because they know how powerful we are. They know how powerful. Even in our sleep, Empress, we were so powerful that it was scary for them.
Yep. And I'm ancient, and so in the dream I saw that I pretended with them, but at some point I went and I said, the voice of God, and we know we are God, spoke through me. Spoke through me and said, "How dare you block my energy?" And I opened the light, and the other Moors there woke up.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's it's intense out there. But I want to say, I know that they got all of that they learned and stuff from us, and I want to say, these decrees, when we say we're decreeing, it is really powerful. Because that's what they've been doing in their books, but they've been thinking that they've been supporting their own, government and people and stuff like that. But we can decree over ourselves and our nation and everything. So I yield.
Empress?
Yes.
They couldn't do anything without us.
Yeah, I know.
Period. That ought to give us some hint about how powerful we are now that we know who we are. So when I hear more saying, "Oh, this doesn't work, that doesn't work," I'm like, okay, you just don't know. You just don't know your own power, and it's okay because you'll learn it after a while. Crazy.
Yeah.
So, where we are in terms of all that we're doing, and this is another reason, Empress, what you said is also further proof that when we are competent, they will stand down. I'll just say it 2 more times because it's a spell. When we're competent, they will do as commanded because they already know who we are, been known who we are. When we're competent, they will yield. They always have and they always will. I've seen it with my own eyes many times that when we are competent and peaceful, they will stand down and will not move. They will not get in our way. And in fact, they will do the opposite of getting in our way. They will clear the way. Moors, let it be known. I'm putting it on the public record again right now. Know this, that when we're competent and peaceful, they will yield. Period. I don't even care who it is. It doesn't matter who it is. They already know that when we know who we are, it's a wrap on everything else. It's a wrap. That's why I keep saying it's a wrap. It's done. I'm gonna point something out and I'm gonna mess it up by pointing it out, but I'm gonna point it out anyway. Let me tell y'all something. Even the ones that's sitting in here now, cause see them, the ones that come in and be trying to talk and do crazy stuff, the foreign hybrids, that the court jesters, they've been sitting in here the whole time and hadn't said a word. When we're competent, they'll yield. They'll be quiet. And every now and then when you point it out, they're like, "Oh, I got to do some stupid stuff. Let me do some stupid stuff." But when we're competent, they will yield. And we've gotten to the point now where it's a wrap. It's a wrap. And everyone knows it. Everyone knows it. More as y'all did it. Come on now. Go on and pat yourself on the back. If my hand was back there where you are, I'd be patting you on the back, just like you did it. Boom, bam, done. A wrap. So now all we need to do is continue to do what we're doing. That's it. It's a wrap. It's finished. So all of the things that you're seeing, if you're seeing them, because see, I don't, a lot of that stuff I just ignore it because I already know it's theater. It's fake. But the things that you're seeing about, you know, foreign hybrids pretending to be government and all of that stuff, you can actually stop looking at that stuff now because it doesn't mean anything. And when you stop looking at it, it's going to get quieter and quieter and quieter until they're gone away, and you're just going to look up one day and, oh wow, it's just us and any subjects that are hanging around. It's a wrap. It's over. It's done. It's all good. So are there any questions, comments, wisdom, anything of that nature? We know where we are. Islam, nobility.
I'm still a neophyte. And I've got the before demonstrating process notes that you had on one of your videos,
mm-hmm.
And it says the download the 66 trillion sovereign credit instrument,
mm-hmm.
and I couldn't find it.
So
is it
create
still on the Google?
I want you to create one.
Create a sovereign credit instrument.
Yes, I want you to create one for 666 trillion and put it on the public record with your autograph on it in red.
As I said, I'm a neophyte. So
not anymore. Not anymore. You're no longer a neophyte as of today. You have the authority of the whole earth. You're governing the whole earth. So put on the public record a $666 trillion. And I think that document is still on the moorisheamericanconsulate.org website. I went there because I have not been going there. But I went there and saw a lot of our documents, you know, there, which we are okay with that. So it may be there. I believe it is there. Actually, I think I saw it. So,
thank you.
but if not, you know, go ahead and create one for yourself, and all Moors are encouraged to create a $666 trillion document, put it on the public record, because we're all governing. We're all governing equally. And so your document is as valid as mine, and we're all good. Everybody's doing the same thing. I love this. I love this. I love it. Islam nobility.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Islam, it was right.
Islam nobility.
It's just. I'm sorry, I accidentally hit the mute. You mentioned something earlier about the Zim that you have, and yeah. I hear people talk about this tier 1, tier 4B, and all this stuff like that. Now, being that we are the currency controllers of all that's all currency, I'm assuming. Shouldn't we be able to conduct our own, exchange on our Zim, or how does that work for government, so to speak?
So do you believe them when they say tier 1 has already gotten theirs and now we're on tranche number 2 or tranche number 3 for tier 2? Do you believe them?
Well, not really. I hear talk going around, but I don't really buy into all the rhetoric.
They're looking straight at what we're doing, and the Dollarium was tier 1.
Okay.
The fiduciary money is a different tier. And as we print, they speak to each other about what we're printing.
Now, when it comes to the, I hear Zimbabwe is coming out with a new gold coin or token of some sort.
So I would like for you to do the research on the difference between a round and a coin.
Governments must create the coins.
Governments create the coins, and Zimbabwe is not. That one that they put in their media is not a real government.
Oh, okay.
It's a corpse.
Corpse. Okay.
It's a corpse, and that's why they accept fiat for the gold coin round, the round that they issue.
Oh, okay.
It costs fiat to even purchase the round, so I don't even know why people are so excited about that. They're telling you that it's not real by accepting fiat for it. No, it's not real. It's fake. What they are doing is hinting and acting out. That's what they're doing. The same way they did in 2008 when they printed up all those ZIMs. Because 2008 was when the quote-unquote crash happened, and everyone was saying, okay, are the Moors going to speak now? Let's prepare for them to speak. So they printed up a bunch of ZIM and everything, all of that, and others did too. Others printed up things. But we weren't ready at that time. And I can't say we weren't ready. We just didn't do it. But now we're doing it. Printing our own money. All they were doing was saying, hey, you have the authority to print your own money. Look, we printed ours. It's not worth anything, but we're just showing you that we can do it. That's what they were saying. Because they know that our money that we print is the only money that's worth anything. So they were just showing us how to, do the sequential money and all of that, because the ZIMs come in sequence and all of that. And they start with AA, just like AA 222-141A1 truth. The ZIMs start with AA, so do the yuan, and so do all of the other monies, fiat rather. They all start with AA because that's where we start.
Islam, I noticed that about some of the currencies, different ones.
They're just saying, whenever y'all get ready to print your money, Moors, start here. And we can do that. We can start with Q, with fiduciary money, and then we can start with AA, with the money that's going to go around the whole earth. And we're going to do that. We pay attention to all of that stuff. We get the hints that they're giving. We get it. So, right now with dollarium and fiduciary money, the ancestors just want to see, okay, how are they going to behave with this? How are they going to behave with that? That way we will know what test to give them with what's coming next. Our ancestors are they're very wise. And when we know who we are, because we're our ancestors returned, we'll already know what to do, how to do it, and all of that. There will be no secrets about how to do things. So, yeah, the dollarium and all of that, they wanted to first see with the dollarium, they just wanted to see who's willing to stand. Who's willing to stand and challenge fiat? That's what dollarium is about. Initially, it was about that. And Moors did it. They stood and they said, we are going to be using our own. So just know that that's coming. Then they said, okay, let's see who's bold enough to do fiduciary money. And what will you do with the fiat? I said, okay, let's burn the fiat and do the fiduciary money. But see, you have to get past the programming that has to do with fake policy enforcers and fake courts in order to comfortably print fiduciary money. You actually have to be past that in your mind, or be working to get past it in your mind. Well, now, because that's what it's going to take to get to the real, the third level, the third heaven. And I don't, all of it's real. First of all, Delarium is real, fiduciary money is real. All of that's real. It's real because it comes from us. And then now we're moving forward now and saying, okay, we do things in threes. So it'll be this third iteration that's going to go all around the earth. Delarium went all around the earth. Fiduciary money will go all around the earth by the time it's all said and done. And then that way we will see the gateways, the supply ways, the supply chain is manifesting right now. With Delarium made it so that we could see, okay, where are there Moors at? There's Moors at China, Indonesia, French Guiana, Jamaica, Trinidad, UK, Australia, Greenland. There are Moors everywhere. So now it's like, okay, now fiduciary money, let's just send something through to make sure that the supply chain for even the citizens is open. Let's see if that supply chain is open. And then what comes after that is, are the supply chains open for the whole earth to receive from the Moors? Yes, it's open. That's how our ancestors work. They say, okay, first, is it okay with the Moors? And the Moors proved that Delarium is okay with them. And then they said, okay, now let's see about the citizens, see if we can do something where the citizens can use it. Because citizens can't use Delarium. Only Moors can use Delarium. But citizens can use fiduciary money. And then the ancestors said, okay, now that we have something for both the Moors and their subjects, let's make sure that we have something for the whole earth. Our ancestors know what they're doing, and they don't do anything out of order. They do everything in order. And meanwhile, Moors are showing who they really are by doing the demonstrations. You know, even with the in the chat on a separate note, Empress Shatali put in there that was probably Friday the 13th. Yes, it was. This scripture that's on here, now in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day, that's Friday the 13th, where folks were slaughtered for putting hands on the anointed people. And again, we don't do things, we're not violent, we are loving. Everything that we do it on paper, because guess what? That's the only place they exist. It's like a chessboard. A chessboard, you do all your damage on the board. And then you pull folks off the board. After you get them, you pull them off the board. So we don't have to do any slashing and killing and guns and all that. We do all of our work on paper. And then we go out and demonstrate it. Yes, Islam in the chat. To the Jews first, and also to the Greeks. You know, I had a little bit of an issue with that initially, because I was thinking, why would we even help citizens and subjects when we need to be in order? That was back in 2017, and you know, folks were not having a good time with that piece, because they were saying, well, you got to include the hybrids in what you're doing. You got to include. Let's get the Jew first. Let's get the Moors first. I had that same conversation today, where they are bringing, quote unquote, and this is just acting, so we know that this is not really what's really happening. But they were bringing Ukrainians, quote unquote, into the U.S., quote unquote, to help them because of, whatever they're acting out in the news. And all I was thinking was, I'm just glad that they can't bring people into Morocco. We have to do that. Okay? And it's always going to be Moors first. It has to be Moors first, because the Moors are the estate. And if you don't secure the estate first, then who's going to inherit anything? No one inherits anything if the estate is not secure. And that's why we do things the way we do them. We're not mad at anybody. We don't have anything against anybody. But we know in our heart and in our knower that, yes, there is a difference between the heirs and those who are not heirs. There's a difference between those who are of the bloodline of birthright and those who are not. We know that. We're not mad at anybody, but the Moors will have domiciles before anybody else. The Moors will be the ones, that are first in line for everything. Everything. Before anyone else. And anyone who has a problem with that, too bad. Get over it. It is the natural order. So get over it. And Moors, that's why we have to stand up and do what we're doing boldly and bravely and do what we do. We actually have to do what we do. I was actually supposed to be traveling today, but the main planner for the event that I was going to go to, because I put my travel orders out on the public record, but the main planner for that event had her mother-in-law passed away last week on Tuesday. So I said I'm going to postpone going on this trip until later. And the reason I bring that up is just for those who were wondering about the travel arrangements. But that is how we do travel arrangements, because the Moors have to be first in everything. Everything we have to be first. We're not supposed to wait in a line and then wait for somebody to scan us and put us through all types of madness. We're supposed to be able to go where we're going without examination, by the way, because that's according to the treaty. Moors are supposed to be first in everything. It is the natural order. And that's why we're doing these things that we're doing. We don't hate anybody. We created everybody. But it's our job to lead the way in everything. We are first in everything. And that's in the legal code book, the Biblios Heliotext, where it said the first shall be last and the last shall be first. We did our part. We acted out that whole being the tail thing. We did that already. We did that. It is what it is. We did that. So we don't have to keep doing that. And for that, we are grateful. So with that being said, if there's nothing further, any questions, comments, wisdom, etc.?
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, I remember I heard someone say they were looking for a template for check.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I have the template that the Bank of Antimorium sent me, and all me and Maverick did, we got the check paper from Staples, and we printed out the checks. Unfortunately, it didn't work because the ancestors wasn't ready for it to work at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a different time now. But I can share that check with anybody who wants it, and y'all can use it. So the best way, I send it to you because you got all our emails, and then they can get it from you.
Okay.
How's that? Okay, very good. That's all.
Islam. I actually was Empress Rose. If you'll send that Wells Fargo check, so we could look at it, that'd be great as well.
Islam.
Islam nobility.
I'd like to get a copy of what the noble just said, the template of that check.
Template of the check. If you want to give Justice Dawood your email address, he can email it to you, Noble Consul.
Okay. My email address is.
Are you Justice Consul? Are you on the computer?
Yes, I am. I'm just going to be on the computer.
Okay, you may want to inbox him your email address because you can do that in the chat.
I will do. Islam.
And again, Morris, make sure that you know that any exchanges that are done need to be done in lawful, either fiduciary money or dollarium, no matter what it is between Moors. Okay? So with that being said, Empress, is there any other?
Oh, Islam. The video that you had shared with me about the Islamic banking, are you going to share that with the people so they can, view it, and then we can discuss it further?
Yeah, can you put the link in the chat? I always think about, I come across so much in my research that most of the stuff that I come across, I don't even think about it in terms of putting it on the public record, because a lot of that stuff I'm still looking at in terms of the Islamic banking. We know that that's coming forth now, and I'll say this about it on the public record. All of this madness about banks being insolvent and banks closing and having bank holidays and people outside of the banks locked out of accounts and all of that stuff, none of that stuff affected any of the Islamic banks.
Islam, I just put in the chat.
She put the link to a video that I posted. I did put it on YouTube. Facebook. On my Facebook page. I did put it out there on my Facebook page for people to look at. But with Islamic banking is just it looks a lot like quote unquote conventional banking, and I hesitate to call it conventional banking because it's really not that. Islamic banking is more conventional, but Islamic banking looks a little bit different from the banking system that we were previously using. Justice Dawood, do you see in the chat, Justice Akil wanted you to send him that check that you were talking about?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
One thing about that Islamic banking, you know, back in what year was that? Well, when I was getting the house, I was going to use them to get the house. But they wanted to bow down to the U.S. corporation and not do a pure Islamic banking, so I didn't use it.
So they were hypothecated also.
Yes.
And now they're coming out because they know that we're doing what we're doing, and they want to model for us. They want to model. So we're just going to look at whatever it is that they put out there, you know. But even the corporation is saying that those, you know, Islamic banking is, you know, the way to go and all of that, you know. It looks a lot like what we were, quote unquote, taught. It's just there are a few nuances that make it so that the bottom line stays solvent. Okay. But, you know, I find it interesting, and this is something we have to keep in mind more as we're continuing to rise. Just know that anything that's out there that's showing up now, the only reason it's showing up is because we're doing what we're doing. So we are not to be subservient to any of that. We look at it, we absorb the principles of it, and then we keep moving. You know, that's not a place where we're going to park. So with that being said, there are some emails in the chat for the check, Justice Dawood. And you know, again,
I'm trying to write them down.
Okay.
So cut us off here.
Okay, and Justice Dawood, you're not going to charge him anything for it, are you?
No.
Okay, because, you know, we don't do fiat for any of the processes or any of the things that we do.
I don't know why Angel put her name in there.
Well, Islam, because I didn't want to be forgotten, you know, that part. And so,
on,
you
Angel.
know, huh?
Sister Light, Angel is Swampomac's clerk. She's the head clerk of all of Swampomac territory.
You might as well say the whole New York, that part.
Yeah, the whole land of Nod territory. That's Sister Angel.
Islam. We affirm that she is Islam. She's also the Chief Justice. But then all Moors are. So let's just make that clear. All Moors are the chief clerks and chief justices of all territories. So, Islam. With that being said, are there any other questions, comments, wisdom, anything of that nature?
Islam,
Empress.
So I think I saw in the Constitution it says there's, or I don't know where I saw it, but it said that there's one Chief Justice and then 6 justices under the Chief. Have you seen?
Yeah, I have seen something like that. I believe it was someone's interpretation of the Constitution.
Yeah. But it's not actually in the Constitution anywhere. It's just
no. That's their interpretation of it. And for those territories and Moors who want to adopt that, they can.
Okay.
But just know that you're not bound to be under anyone. Okay. No one And in fact, no one is ever over the Moors. Each and every Moor needs to know that there's no one over you.
Right.
Unless you agree to do that. If you agree that someone's over you, then you stick to your agreement and your commitment. But other than that, and at any time, you can say, I don't want to be a part of that anymore, over that. I don't want anyone over me anymore. You know.
Resign.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Because ultimately, you're in your godness, they're not over you. You know, so. Islam nobility.
Yes, this is Isaiah. I noted that the custodian in the office of President of the United States Corporation back on March 9th, 2022, he executed an executive order, 14067. That particular order varied in a few paragraphs titled Section 4.
Yeah.
The language in Section 4 makes Order 14067 the most treacherous act by a sitting so-called President of the United States in the history of the Republic. Now, because Section 4 sets the stage for legal surveillance of all U.S. citizens, total control over your so-called checking account, savings account, purchases, all of that. They have now the opportunity to, basically the ability to silence all dissenting voices, whereby they can pick and choose what they want to see, what they want to delete from your checking account, savings account. They have total control.
Not from
because of that executive order. Yes, that's based on the U.S. citizens.
Yeah.
This is all for U.S. citizens, yes.
Right. And so U.S. citizens answer to the Moors. So we do need to see, because we have said, and so when you look at things like that, when you see things like that, look at them from the perspective of the fact that you're the one who issued the order for that to happen.
Follow you.
Don't look at it as you're a victim, because you're not.
No, I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of the U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
You know, because this is basically the execution over the U.S. citizens.
Yeah.
Where they
are you opposed to knowing what's going on your land where U.S. citizens and banking and things are concerned? Are you opposed to that?
No, I'm not opposed to not knowing what's going on. I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
At all times.
Okay.
For our benefit as Moors.
Right. Because, see, we have to tax them.
Exactly.
So we said, make sure that we know what's going in and going out of the banking system. We said that. That's our order. Because as you know, that one there, the one that was doing business as Joe Biden, is not really a president. We're the president. We have to know that. We have to know what's going on the land. We're the ones who issued that order.
Okay.
And Moors, it's all right. You'll get used to knowing your own power and authority. You'll get used to that. And all of the Moors who, for example, I have my all capitalized name is going to be doing commerce. So I'm gonna have to watch the commerce and make sure where taxes are concerned that my all caps is doing what it's supposed to be doing where taxes are concerned, so that I don't rob my own estate. Just saying. Because we're going to be pulling in boatloads of money. So, you know, when you see those that were previously doing business as president doing things and saying things, look at it from a top-down perspective and not a bottom-up perspective. We've seen it from the bottom up. We know that some things were not right where citizens are concerned. We know that. We're going to make sure from the top down that that doesn't happen. But look at it from a different perspective. You know, your perspective needs to be from where you really are now. You know. No, we don't want things to be ugly, and you know, we don't want to invade people's privacy, so to speak, but we kind of need to, simply because where commerce is concerned, and here's the thing, this is the point of that. They published, nobility, they published that they are now going to be looking at everybody's accounts, but they've been looking at them all along. That's not anything new. Not new. And surveillance of communications has been going on since communications first started. So that's not new either. All they're doing now is saying, okay, everyone, the Moors are going to be listening to everything you say, and they're going to be watching your money because it's their money. That's really what they're doing. See, the only reason that they would announce it now is because they're not in control of it anymore. But as long as they were in control of it, they were going to act like, no, that's not what's happening. We're not really listening to everything you say. We're not really watching your bank account. We just going to send the IRS, the quote unquote IRS, is going to still audit you if something ain't right. But we're not really looking at that. The only reason they would announce it is because they're not in control anymore of that. We are. And we told them, hey, let everybody know that we coming for our taxes. Let everybody know. And they said, oh, you know, there's going to be 87,000 new IRS agents, quote unquote. No, there isn't. There's going to be some, the system, which is it's a system, okay, that says raise a red flag if you see more than $600 go into one account at any time. Raise a red flag and send an auto bot email to the IRS system so that they can automatically send out a document to whoever it is that's on that bank account. All of that is automated. So that's another reason why we don't have to be afraid of anything or anyone. We never had to be afraid of anything or anyone. That system is our system. We've never had to worry about hacking and all of that. Hacking is just another way of saying the Moors are looking at what you're doing on the public record. The government is looking at what you're doing. And they knew we was going to do some things when we first woke up and said we want them to listen. Because, see, we wasn't scared then either. Because people were saying, why are you putting all of that on the public record? They don't need to know that. That needs to be kept quiet. No, it don't. It's not quiet even if you think it is. You thinking that you just talking in your quote-unquote adept chamber. You think they don't know? And who is they? They is we. They is we. That's how come we were able to free ourselves with the information, and we didn't have to pay you fiat for your class. Because the all-seeing eye is all of you, all of us together. And I is spelled with one, the all-seeing eye, that I is spelled with one letter for all of us. And when I say you, that you is spelled with one letter too. We didn't have to go to pay somebody $1,200 and $5,000 fiat Federal Reserve debt notes to find out that all we got to do is look in a dictionary and free ourselves and get our courts going and print our own money, because they weren't going to tell you that. I don't care how much you paid. They were not going to tell you what we know now, because they didn't even do it. And we're not mad. We love them. We love them. But they were not going to tell you in nobody's ADEP chamber that you need to be printing your own money. Because you're the real Federal Reserve, and you're the real IRS, and you're the real government. So we didn't really need to go to a chamber anyway, and let's look that word up and see what chamber really means. And we're not mad at anybody. We're not mad at anybody. We just know what we know and what the ancestors have given us in terms of what needs to be done. When people say something about ADEP chambers and all of that, they need to look that word chamber up.
Islam. Chamber. A large room used for formal or public events. That's the noun. The verb is a place a bullet into a chamber of a gun.
An ADEP chamber was supposed to be for the Moors publicly to know what's going on. Publicly. So why call it an ADEP chamber and then hide everything from the people unless they pay you? And again, we're not mad at anyone. We're not calling anyone out. We're just stating what we saw back there. That's all we're doing. Stating what we saw back there. I have chamber here. Chamber, a vault. That's where the money is. A vault. It says a room in a house, especially a sleeping room, a bedroom. Furnished rooms hired for residence in the house of another, lodgings. The place where an assembly meets, an assembly hall, also a legislative or judicial body, as the Senate chamber. All of that was supposed to be us. So why hide it? That's what a chamber of commerce was all about. They were governing commerce.
And a depth of very skilled or proficient at something.
Okay. But I'm not one of them. Did I ever see any? And I'm gonna go there at this point. I never saw any Morris Science Temple of America fiduciary money or money being printed of any kind. Why not? I'm just asking for a friend. Why not? Could it be a 501c3 thing? Probably. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying. So
I felt the same way. You know, I've been doing my meditations and stuff, like even about these mega churches and stuff like that. And you know, I'm with my heir, and I'm like, we don't have no type of education stuff set up, but we can go to church every Sunday, you know, and give all our money and have these beautifully organized churches, but we can't like organize. You know, I was feeling frustrated, but I know that the spell's been real. So yeah.
You know, that is interesting, because this is the crazy part about that too. When my parents, because my father and mother were ministers, Christian ministers. Well, when they started a church, they automatically started a school. They had a Christian academy because they saw the need they were actually trying to do things for us, because they kept seeing people being thrown out of school or suspended for things, and it's like, okay, wait a minute now. That didn't seem right. So they started their own Christian academy, and, you know, they were doing all they knew to do. But, you know, those schools and those churches were working together. And I'm talking about like the public school and the church, those big giant churches down the street, they were all working together. They didn't mean for us to have separate schools, because they were hypothecating our identity. So why would they have something separate for us? The separation came when they started sending their kids to Harvard. That's where the separation came at. Just saying. With that being said, if there is nothing further, we will adjourn. Islam nobility.
I just want to also make known that that particular executive order basically is designed to issue their new, replace the cash dollar with a digitized version, whereby this particular new currency will allow for total control of all American subjects, whereby the subject will be under their total jurisdiction, whereby they can turn on and off this digitized currency, like a, say for instance, a so-called credit card.
So at any time,
that's what they, at any time they can hit the switch, your account is frozen. They don't have to go to the director, the CEO of that particular bank, and make any recommendations or anything. From their place of doing so-called business, they can hit the switch and you have, your account is frozen.
Okay.
With this digitized currency that they are getting ready to trying to launch.
Okay.
So it's basically all drafted for the subject.
So when we put a lien on somebody, it's going to stop it immediately, huh?
Definitely.
Okay. That's what we said to do. And that thing in Canada where they had the truck drivers doing some type of whatever, and they shut off everybody's account, that was a test to make sure that the system is working according to the way that we have said it needs to work. Islam. We need not be under any illusion that we're victims of anything anymore. We need not be under any illusion that we're not in control of anything. We're in control of everything. Everything that we have said to do. They've done it. The subjects have done it. Everything that we told them, we want this, 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 and this. The system is already set up to do it. Now what has to happen is the rest of the Moors have to wake up and say, I'm not a debtor in this system, I'm a creditor. So whenever we hear
competently
like
claim the person.
Competently claim your person. So when I hear things like that, I'm like, good job. Good job. That's good. That's good. It should be that way. That's good. See, if your eyes are not open, you will see you'll see the world as a very dark place, and it's very bad. But when your eyes are open, you see it as, wow, they did everything we told them to do. Everything. And we can freely move about and do what needs to be done on our end. The only people that would be afraid of them monitoring accounts and stuff like that is people who are subject to them. That's the only ones that'll be scared of that. Well, we're not afraid. But we're not afraid because we did the demonstration. We did POW demonstrations. We said, how do we get past this and this and this? Okay. Let's demonstrate how to get past it. That's why we're not afraid of, oh, they said that, if over 600 gets in there, you're done. They're going to be auditing you and la, 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 la. We already know what to say. We're the IRS. Period. We are not taxed. Our all caps is not taxed because of our fiduciary status. Because anyone claiming a tax better not be bankrupt. Best not be bankrupt. Don't claim something. Don't try to reach into a pot if you bankrupt. And here's the thing. The bankrupt ones are already where they're supposed to be. And the subjects are doing what they're supposed to do. We said prepare everyone to be taxed by the Moors as we continue to stand. Prepare everyone. And so they're doing that. They're casting all types of crazy spells and all of that stuff. And every time I see one of those spells, I just chuckle. Oh, they're hiring 87,000 IRS agents and they're going to have guns. I just chuckle because they're not going to have guns. But all that's saying is, those who owe taxes better pay. But see, that's nothing new. That's nothing new. That's not new. I specifically remember my parents, man, when I think about the things they did, I'm like, you guys worked miracles in a system where you weren't even supposed to be alive. They worked miracles, but they also had some real shrewd hybrids up, pretending to be over them, that was pretending to be their friends, but casting spells in their ears at the same time. My parents, at one point, almost every year they were getting a tax bill for at least $25,000. Every year they were saying, you owe $25,000 in taxes this year. You owe $14,000 in taxes this year. You owe $22,000 this year. Every year. And who did they use to whisper in their ears and enforce that? By casting spells? Because my parents were peaceful people. They used foreign attorneys who were claiming to be their friends, who would meet them at the office of those threatening to throw them in jail if they didn't pay. So be careful who you buddy up with, because all they're doing there is casting spells in your ear to keep you scared, because that's their job. And they're going to do their job. I don't care if you marry them. They're going to do their job. They're going to do their job. It's in the biblical text. So, hey, but that's not a thing either. Again, you know who we are? It's all good. We're good. It's a wrap already. It's a wrap already. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom, etc.? Islam.
Thank you so much for your work, Empress. Thank you so much.
Islam. Thank you, nobility. Thank you so much too. It's a labor of pure love, and it doesn't even feel like labor. It's just pure love. We deserve the best of everything. We do.
Absolutely.
We deserve the best of everything, and I'm willing to make sure that happens. So our heirs deserve the best of everything too, and their heirs, and their heirs, and their heirs, into perpetuity. So, with that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, and indigenous natural divine heirs. Islam.
Islam.
Peace and grand rising.
Peace and love.
Peace and grand rising. Islam.
Islam.
Grand Rise.
Grand Rising.
Islam.
Hasta la vista.
Islam.
Buenas noches.
Islam.
Shalom.
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 Shalom indeed.
Grand Rising.
Islam.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir. Islam.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Love you.
I like that one.
All right, good night.
Good night.